Well, hello, everybody, and welcome in to this week's edition of the Williamson Herald High School Football Report. I'm Joe Williams with my guys, Josh Vardaman, Charles Pulliam. Had a big week last week. This week, we expect more of the same. We're at CPA today, coming to you from the Lions Den as they get ready, undefeated, to host Independence. The Eagles, big win last Friday night over Brentwood. And Charles, not a shocker to everybody, but a bit of a shocker, the win by Independence.
Well, I think it's the point total. Josh and I were talking on the way out here a little bit. I mean, 42-31 the win there. They were up 42-17 early in that second half. The Eagles offense just able to put it through, and it was Ethan Cash. He's our Gateway Tire Player of the Week here this week, and it's because he went for 466 yards and 5 touchdown passes. I mean, just video game-like numbers for this guy. TJ Sheffield, 3 touchdowns, 280-plus yards receiving. Isaiah Collier, 2 more touchdowns, plus a rushing touchdown, 9 catches, 170 yards. How do you top this kind of offense? Well, Brentwood tried, came pretty close. Cade Granzo, the quarterback there for Brentwood, had a great game as well. He threw for 4 touchdowns. They were just outgunned in a just good battle there by Indy, I think.
It reminds me of what Coach Donnie Webb said early in the week in his fight with Centennial. He said, we can't get into a scoring battle with Centennial like Independence did.
And look what happened when Centennial was capable of doing that, too. Indy, I think, got right to that par, right in that 40-point range, and I guess that's where they're going to peak out here. But for Brentwood, they saw that, and, they really did. It was neat to see Walker Merrill and Cade Granzo connected twice, right back-to-back to pull within that striking range, just unable to get any further there in the fourth quarter. Some good defense there, some big fourth down conversions. There was this fourth down. Ethan Cash finds TJ Sheffield on 4th and 3 in the third quarter. 4th and 3 from the 40-yard line. And you're thinking like, yeah, you might get the first down there. It was a touchdown.
Broke loose and went away.
There you go.
Gotta love it when that happens. Now, those Eagles come up to CPA, Josh. The Lions undefeated this year. They've beaten a pretty stout list of teams. This is one of those great public-private matchups that I think is healthy for both sides.
Yes, very healthy for both sides because both teams are really good. Like Charles said, Indy has really come on in the past few weeks. CPA has just been rolling all season long. Their defense is really good, led by Clemson commit Kane Patterson. So it'll be something for the Eagles to go against this week. But the Lions are pretty good offensively themselves. Quarterback Ryan Elledge is playing really well. He has a lot of running backs to use. Sam West, the aforementioned Kane Patterson, Noah Henderson outside at wide receiver. So the Lions can do a little bit of everything. It'll be tough for CPA or tough for Independence to come here to the Den on Friday.
It ought to be a heck of a game, and it's one of our games of the week this week that we'll be keying on. Another big game going on in Williamson County. You've got Brentwood hosting Father Ryan, another one of those public-private matchups. And the Irish have looked good, but they've struggled. The results, the scoreboards have not gone in their favor. And I got to be honest, having to go to Brentwood after what happened last week, I'm not sure that's a ride Brian Rector wants to take.
No, the Bruins are going to come out fire, and that's for sure. Of course, like Charles said, they were really good offensively last week, just couldn't put up enough to beat a really good offensive team in Independence. Father Ryan, like you said, they've looked good on the field at times this year, but they've played probably the toughest schedule in the state this season, and it doesn't get any easier for them this week going to Brentwood.
And the fun part, I think probably Ryan has one of the best overall athletes I've seen in a long time in Seamus O'Connell. The kid can just do anything, whether you put him at running back, defensive back, quarterback. Charles, he just gets the job done.
But at the same time, it's kind of him leading the way, but there's just not a lot of depth outside of that. Yeah. I mean, it just seems like there's just not a lot of bodies sometimes, too. And this is a 35-10 loss for Father Ryan last week. Something about Seamus being able to lead the way there, but he needs some help. And I don't know if you want to dive right into a wounded Brentwood team coming out of here. So Brentwood was ranked number 10 last week. They fell out of the AP poll. Cade Granzo at quarterback has just done fantastic. Almost 300 yards of total offense last week. I really like what the sophomore can do, and I don't think Father Ryan's going to be able to contain him.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to go see that bear that got poked, the way that bear got poked last week. Up the road in Franklin over on Macatcher, BGA will be at home against winless Glencliff, and another public. This is the week for public-private matchups, and a good opportunity for Glencliff to face a similar sized team in numbers in a way, but yet BGA, they're thinking about getting on through this and getting to the playoffs.
Yeah, in the public-private game in this one, take the private team in this one, of course. Glencliff hasn't won a game, 0-7 so far. Battleground Academy last week with a big 45-8 win over Whites Creek after 2 straight losses. So getting back on track. Nick Septemfelter at quarterback for BGA has been really good all season long. Ty Reed is a heck of a running back as well, who does a little bit of everything, receiver, returns, kicks, and punts also. Look for BGA to put up some numbers in this one.
Like the way you did the name. It took me 3 years of the Blaze coming to Franklin and the Cowboys for me to pick that one up, I got to tell you. The other big, but this is a private game, Division II game up on Granny White Pike, not far from BGA, Brentwood Academy, facing McCauley. Little history here is McCauley coach Ralph Potter left McCauley, came to Brentwood Academy, spent a few years, went back to McCauley. This is always an interesting battle to begin with. I think what makes it even a little more interesting, Charles, is nobody's challenged the Eagles yet.
I think each week we've talked a little bit about the potential, but this really is maybe the best potential challenge we've seen for these guys yet. Going all the way back to week 1 there, Hillsborough really pushed them 31-16. That was the last team to score multiple touchdowns against Brentwood Academy, though, as this defense has just been so stout, so great. And I think McCauley has a little more opportunity to score at least more than once. The 6-1 Blue Tornado coming in here. There's some possibilities there, and there's a lot of history in this game. But, again, BA has just been so stout. 7-0, 24 straight wins. It's a tough one to come to Brentwood Academy.
Going to be a tough one for them. Now, speaking of tough games, Harpeth hopes to give Fairview a tough one. The Yellow Jackets looking to secure that spot. I think they've already got a playoff spot secured. They're looking to win that region again.
Well, taking it over solely there last week with a 33-13 win at Sycamore. They moved to 3-0 in Region 6 3A, and Sycamore went in there 2-0. Both of them battled out there. Harpeth coming in on senior night. There's a lot going on here. They were able to pick up their first win last week, and it just so happened to be a Region 1. But the Yellow Jackets are stout, man. I mean, what do we got? Cam Harris-Lusk at 18, 19 touchdowns on the season.
Yep.
The names we've talked about week in and week out are there, and Fairview is tough. But for some reason, in the AP poll, they fell behind a certain team this week. I think it's East Nashville.
May have been.
Yeah?
May have been those 56 points that the Eagles put up down in Giles County. That's, that was.
Jeez. Huh.
Oh, yeah.
Who knew?
As I said, they scored 56 points last year. I played on East Side teams that didn't score 56 in a season. So we know those guys are on the roll, but we'll talk about them later. One big win last week. Franklin picks up the victory over Centennial now for their reward for having a 2-game winning streak. Hey, let's go face Oakland.
Yeah, quite a reward, isn't it? Oakland is just rolling this year as normal, as the Patriots usually do. Franklin's won 2 in a row, though. Don't count out the Rebels just yet. Of course, Donnie Webb last week going against a tough Centennial offense, holding them to just 14 points. I think 162 total yards, which was a season low for Centennial. So Dr. Defense has got his defense going right now. Watch out, Oakland.
Halftime, Centennial had 0 yards on the ground. I mean, it was just that kind of a ball game. And what that has done, too, it has set up an interesting run in Region 6-6A, because if Franklin beats Dixon County, which they probably should, that means Centennial has to beat Brentwood just to get back into the playoff picture. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
There you go. But that region's so tough now with Indy messed it up a little bit on their own doing this. They go to 2-1. Ravenwood's 3-1. Brentwood's 3-1. Centennial's there at 2-2. Franklin's at 1-3, still in it. And Dixon's the 0-4 team on the looking outside in kind of thing here. Yeah.
After a 2-win start.
Yeah.
They started off 2-0, but once they got inside the region, it got pretty ugly. Speaking of possibly ugly, Franklin Road Academy has had a good year so far. They're at 4-2. However, here comes Columbia Academy. The Bulldogs rolling in here. Charles undefeated.
And looking good at it, too.
Yeah.
At 6-0 overall. Running-wise, Trey Davidson leading the way there. He's getting 9.8 yards per carry. 9.8 per carry. counterpart there, Josh Cook, 7.2 yards per carry. So at any time you could switch it up by going to one of these guys. They have just led the way all the way through. 2 senior running backs there. Franklin Academy, same kind of approach, though, in the running game. They have been fantastic, winning a few games in a row. But I don't know. I mean, when it comes to Columbia Academy coming to the Hill, I think you get a little bit of an advantage there being at FRA, but CA's looking really good.
They're looking really good, but Bill Whittemore, who was an all-state quarterback at Brentwood, who went on to Kansas, I think he finally may have something going in his favor.
You know, they have won a couple of games in a row, like Charles said, looking really good. I think they lost their first 3 and have won lost their first 2, and have won 4 since then. So he's finding something over there, and he is a heck of a coach, one of the best we have in this area.
There is no doubt. Now, on way out, let's go way out in the county now. GCA will be on the road at Huntland. Huntland 4-2, 1-1 in that region. GCA 0-6 and 0-3 so far in the region. And Josh, great year last year. This is a classic example of what happens on the high school level when graduation hits.
Yeah, especially when you lose someone like Austin Moore, who seemingly does just about everything for your football team. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago. They only had, 25 kids come out for the team at the beginning of the year to start with. That's not a lot of guys to play a full football season with. And like you said, Huntland cruising along this year at 4-2 and 1-1 in that region. It'll be another tough one for the Lions.
Huntland, the original home of Shirley Majors, who was the father of John Majors, in case that's my historical trivia of the day for you. Every week I'm trying to bring something. Yeah. Speaking of historically, Lincoln County has been known as a very strong team. They have fallen on some really tough times, especially after Page went down in overtime and beat them in the pit last Friday night. It left them at 2-4, and now they got to travel to Nolensville, Charles, who took it on the chin, surprisingly, at Tullahoma last week.
And in that region, everyone's kind of fighting for the top. Nolensville right in that mix and falling 30-20 at Tullahoma. And it came down to, the first score actually went to Nolensville, but then Tullahoma rattled off 30 straight.
Yep.
And it wasn't until a couple late fourth quarter touchdowns from Colton Dooley to kind of close that gap, but the game was already out of hand. As Tullahoma and Maplewood leading the way there, but Nolensville still in the mix with the one loss there, 2-1 in the region and 4-3 overall. But like I said, for Lincoln County, things don't get easier because now you're going to a Knights team that wants to get back in it. They've dropped 2 in a row now against a really good Brentwood team and against a great Tullahoma team. So how do they recover? I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it will not be a good night for the Falcons. I fear the Knights will be shooting some down before the night is over. Now, we also got another situation where it's not looking good for the visiting team, quite honestly, as White County 0-6 down at the dead end of Region 5-5A has to come to the region leader Page, and Page with that huge win last week on the road at Lincoln County. They're sitting there 6-1, 3-0. Coach Charles Rathbone has this bunch in the driver's seat right now. They need to secure this win.
Yeah, it'll be a tough one for White County going in there. Of course, like you said, Page last week coming out with a big win over Lincoln County. Some people may think this could be a letdown game because, of course, you got a winless team coming in, going off that emotional win last week. But this will be senior night for the Patriots, so hopefully they can get up for that one, get their seniors a win. Led by Cade Walker and Michael Burdick on offense, this Patriots team could score some points on Friday.
They can put them up.
Interesting there with Page, though, last week for the third win, they actually were outgained by the opponent. It was 309 to 180 total yards, where, so they're still losing that battle. That's how they beat Fairview in week 1, I think, and near midseason they had another win where they didn't have all the yards they needed. They just had the big plays when they needed them.
Short field.
Hey, that's for Page though, right there.
Yeah.
That tells you something.
When you can keep it, when your defense can keep you on a short field, life gets to be pretty good. Speaking of pretty good, a pretty good Ravenwood team has got to travel up into Kentucky. They'll face South Warren County, Kentucky, not to be confused with Warren County, and this could be a real battle, Charles.
It went 31-17 last year. We had a home and away series with these two schools, and it's kind of interesting because I think a lot of these South Warren kids are still there because they're off to a 7-0 start up there, and they look good. They look really good. And for Ravenwood now to make that trip up towards Bowling Green area and battle against a team that's averaging, gosh, I mean, their season low was 36 points. They're coming off a 55-7 win. These guys can put some points on the board, and for Ravenwood, it's going to be a big defensive spot opportunity, I guess, to really look at that. We've seen some good guys out there, Brian Rice, guys like that, leading the way defensively, but they got their work cut out for them in Kentucky this week.
They're going to have to learn. Now, further on the south end, the very south end of our county, maybe the most crucial game region-wise will be in 5-5A when Shelbyville comes to visit Summit. The Spartans just about have to win this game, Josh. Shelbyville comes in 2-0, 5-1 overall, 2-0 in the region. Summit 4-3, 3-1. They need to stick a loss on these Golden Eagles.
They do. If they want to keep track with Page in that region standings, they have to come out and beat Shelbyville on Friday. It'll be the senior night again for Summit as well. Of course, George Edomegwu leading the way in that rushing attack. They'll have to bring it against Shelbyville, who's, I think most people would say, a surprising 5-1 and 2-0 in that region this year.
Yeah, it's one of those going into the year. It was, we're not real sure, but no, we don't think they're going to be on this side, the plus side of where we think they're going to be.
When you got a quarterback like Grayson Trammell coming in, though, for Shelbyville, this is the kid that threw for nearly 3,500 yards last year, leading the TSSAA. I mean, he put up some numbers, and doing so again this year. He's already at just shy of 1,500 yards, about 19 touchdowns and just 5 picks. Moving the ball well. This was 47-37, I think, was the score last year when Summit went to Shelbyville. So that's got to be on their mind a little bit because that was a big game for Summit to go there and get that win. I think this is just a good region battle, though, because whoever comes out on this will be battling Page right to the end there. And Page has a trip to Shelbyville.
Yes.
So for Shelbyville, this could be a driver's seat in the region kind of win when you think about what that last week means when you got Page leading the way so far.
Last game of the week holds off until Saturday. Special location is Centennial will play Hillsboro, but the Burros don't have a football field this year. Their home field being completely redone and their stadium up across from the big mall in Nashville. And that means that for Saturday night they'll be borrowing Vanderbilt Stadium, and Centennial gets to go up and play under the big lights.
Yeah, how about Hillsboro last week playing at Tennessee State? This year they're going to Vanderbilt, and then they'll finish their season at Tennessee State again, getting to get in some college stadiums this week. Centennial will get to play at an SEC stadium. That'll be fun for them, I'm sure. As we talked about earlier, Centennial losing that tough Battle of Franklin game to Franklin last week, 24-17 or 24-14, 28-14. Sorry about that. But Centennial's looked good offensively for most of the year. Of course, last week, as we said, only gained about 160 yards of offense. Look for Jerry Owowo Wilson to get back on track tonight. I think he only had 30-something rushing yards last week. He's going to come out hungry on Saturday.
I was going to say the big thing last week, Charles, if the Centennial offensive line cannot move these kids from Hillsboro any better than they did Franklin, it's going to be a long night again.
But we saw Wowo actually break free for, I think, a 45-yard catch and run. The guy's going to get his points, get the opportunity there, but we just kind of thought we'd see a little more against Franklin. Obviously, they keyed in on him because he was coming off of 245 yards and 3 touchdowns at Riverdale. So, of course, you're going to focus in a little more. But, he really just couldn't get it going. But there wasn't a lot of opportunity there anyway. I think he only had 8 carries. So that tells you a little bit there. This Hillsboro team has played in this field against CPA. They've had a fantastic schedule, and they're 4-3 in it, right in the mix here. So when it comes to battling a talented team on a well, they're used to playing on a bigger field now, too. There's all these things that are kind of stacked up against Centennial. We'll see how the Cougars do.
We can hope for the best as, Centennial's one of our teams, guys. I mean, let's face it. And I say that because I know my wife, who is a Hillsboro alum, will see this and be mad at me later. Okay, yeah. So
Sorry, Becky.
Yeah, just go ahead and let her get that out of the way. She'll be angry, and that'll be fine. Gentlemen, one last question, just real quick. And I don't mean to stretch this out any, but 3 senior nights this week. It's homecoming here at CPA. What do you think gives a bigger distraction for the home team? Which one, if you had to pick one, and what would be even worse if it were senior night and homecoming?
Yeah.
But which is worse?
I would think as a home team, I would rather play senior night. I think I'd get less distracted on senior night because I think I'd get more focused. This is the last time I'm going to play on this field that I've been on for 4 years. I got my football start here. For some kids, they're going on to play college ball, of course. I would want to make my final senior night special. So I think, and of course, all the things that go on before Friday nights for homecoming, especially some of those nights during that week. We're not going to get too into that. But I would think I'd get a little
floats.
Building floats
Building
and
floats.
decorating the halls and stuff.
Yes.
All of that
Yes.
fun stuff like that. But I would think I'd get a little more distracted on homecoming and be a little more focused on senior night.
Charles?
Oh, I think that says it perfectly right there, because really senior night's that moment to one last buckle down. Let's show them this is my place, my last time playing on the field. That's hard to beat. It's those rare ones that you'd mentioned where it's a homecoming and senior night. That's the one that kind of gets me. I think coaches avoid that on purpose.
I know I would, without a doubt. Well, folks, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Williamson Herald High School Football Report. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to follow along Friday night on Twitter, on Facebook, on the Williamson Herald website. We keep you updated all the way around. You don't want to miss it. And I'll bet you Charles will put all the little Twitter places right about here, somewhere in here before we're done. For Charles Pulliam and Josh Vardaman, I'm Joe Williams. Thank you so much for joining us. Buckle up your seatbelts. We'll see you back next week for the next edition of the Williamson Herald High School Football Report.